Okay. And collection types reserve memory for more than one value. And these collection types are classified into three here. One is sequences, sets, and one more is mapping. And sequences are how many here? Six are there. And sets are two and mappings are one. Then after that, I said what is a variable is? Variable is an identifier which is used to identify value, right? And variable is a named memory location, right? And then I said how to create a variable in Python. So now you create a variable in Python by just assigning value using which operator? Assignment operator. But this operator performs two operations. One is creating and one more is updating, right? So if variable not exists, it will create one new variable. And if variable exists, update value of that variable, right? So this is what you're trying to do it. So when you're working with the variables. The next one is every data type. See, every data type in Python is a, yes, if you see this, open IDLE, okay. So after that, I'm saying A equal to some 25. Okay, so what is the value of A? 25. And what is the type of A? Integer. How can you find it is which type? By using function called type. So if I'm writing here type of A, now A is which type here? Integer type. But before this integer, what do you have here? Class. Integer class. Integer class here. Okay. So when you're working with Python, so where Python is called is so when you're working with the Python, okay. Now where you're saying, so Python is a which language here? Object oriented. Yes. Object oriented programming language. But I said no, object oriented is not a language. It is a programming paradigm. And what it defines is some set of rules and regulations. So in object oriented programming languages, in object oriented programming languages, data is represented. Data is represented as what? Objects. Data is represented as objects and every data type is a class. So here, this point you have to understand here. In object-oriented programming languages, data is represented as what? Objects. And every data type is what here? Class. Okay, so here we need to understand what is a class and what is a object is, right? So for every object behind there is one class. Okay, for every object behind there is one class. It means always the object is created using what? Class. Okay, object is created using what here? Class. Okay, so every object creation there is one class. So in this example, I can say A is what here? Object. Object of which class here? Integer class. Okay. So what is object here is, okay, what is object? So the question is, but you learn this in detail. Okay, but just I'm just giving you a brief about what is class and object. What is object is? Object is generally you'll say Object is an instance of a class. What is object is an instance of a class. Okay. So every object, every object is having every object is having two characteristics. Every object is having two characteristics. What are those characteristics is we call these are properties, and there is one more which is called as a behavior. Every object is having two characteristics. One is called as a properties and second one is called as a behavior. So here properties defines the values held by the object. Properties define the values held by the object, or properties define state of the object. Sorry. So behavior defines, behavior defines the functionality of which one? Object. So yeah, properties define the values held by the object or state of the object. Behavior defines the functionality of which one? Object. Suppose, for example, this is how you develop a class or data type. Every class is one data type. For example, see, just to try to understand, every class is one data type. How you write a class? Using class. Okay, what is the name of the class is? What is the name of the class is? What is the name of the class? Employee. Employee is a class or employee is what here? Data type. You can say employee is a class or employee is a data type. So what employee is having some properties. What employee is having some properties. What are the properties of employees? Like employees having employee number. Okay, so employees having employees having what here? Name. Okay, employees having employee number. Yes. Employees having employee name. An employee is having what here? Salary. Bring on. So what is the name of the data type? Employee. So employee allocates memory for how many values here? 3 values. That is employee number, employee name, and one more is salary. For example, there is a class. What is the name of the class? Date. So here, employee is called as a employee is called as a class name, or it is also called a data type name. It is a class name or it is a data type name. And date is also called a it is called as a data type name, or it is also called as which name? Class name. So what a date is having date. Date is having date. Okay, date is having date, month, and it is also having which one? Year. So here, what is the name of the class here? Date. So date will allocate memory for dates. For example, I want to represent date of birth. What I want to represent? Date of birth. So date of birth is of which type? Date type. Okay, date of birth equal to. So what is the name of the object? DOB. Okay. Then I should create object of which class? Date class. How you create? So this is the name of the class and it followed by parenthesis. So this will create object. So creating object is nothing but allocating memory for how many properties? 3 properties or 3 variables again. So it allocates memory for what now? DD, MM, and what is that? YY. So where it allocates memory in RAM. So that is nothing but main memory. So there is a reserve. There is a memory reserved for, okay, now what is this now here? This is called as which one? Object. What is the name of this object? Date of birth. For example, if I'm writing date of joining equal to date of joining equal to what here? Date. So what is the name of the class? Date. So this is nothing but creating object of which data type? Date. So creating object is nothing but allocating memory for what? Properties. Properties are variables. Now what is the name of this object? Tell me, what is the name of this object? Date of joining. So what date of joining is having again? Date is having date, month, and this is what? Year. So every data type behind, okay, every object behind there is one class. So class allocates memory for which one here? Object. Class allocates memory for the object, right? So in this case, when you're writing A equal to what here? 10. When you write A equal to 10, now 10 is a value of which type? Integer type. Then what your Python virtual machine will do is, it identifies this value as which type? Integer type. Then it should allocate memory for which value? Integer value. Is nothing but it should create which object? Integer object. For creating integer object, your Python virtual machine uses which class? Integer class. So using this integer class, but is it integer class is a predefined class or user defined? Predefined class. But here employee is which class? User defined class. Okay, date is which class? User defined class. Integer is which class? Predefined class or predefined data type. Predefined class or predefined data type. Okay. Now this data type allocates memory for which object? Integer object. So what is the name of this object? A. And what is the value of this object? What is the value of this object? 10. What is the name of the object? A. What is the value of the object? 10. Getting on not? So just to try to understand. Okay. So every data type in Python is a class and instances are what here? Objects. Instancing is nothing but allocating memory. Instantiation is nothing but what here? Allocating memory, right? So every now properties define the values held by the object or state of the object, and behavior defines the functionality of the object. So see here, in object-oriented programming languages, data is represented as objects and every data type is a class. For example, there is a car. There is a car called BMW is a car. BMW is object of which type? Car type. BMW is a car, object of which class? Car class. If you take car is a class, BMW is what? Object. Audi is what? Object. Of which type? Car type. Of which type here? Car type. Okay. Yes. Now, if you take your mobiles, like for example, the car is there. Car is a type of which one? Vehicle. Car is a type of which one? Vehicle. Right. Okay. In the same way, suppose you have a different types of mobiles. You have a mobile. iPhone is there. Is of type which one? Mobile. Samsung is there. Of type which one? Mobile. What is iPhone? Object. What is Samsung? Object. Of which type? Mobile type. Okay, so if you take mobile as a class, using that, you are creating how many objects? Number of objects. So class generally, in this case, what is a class is? So class in object-oriented application development, here class defines the structure of the object. Class defines the structure of which one? Object. Our class defines the properties and behavior of which one? Object. Okay. So class represents what here? Data type. Class represents one data type. Okay. So class represents one data type. So using class, we create, what? Object, and data, perform, store data and operations. Perform operations. Okay. Using class, we create object and store data and perform operations. So class represents what in object orientation? One data type. For example, yes, a basic example, if you see, in object oriented application, yeah, if you see the basic example of this, for example, I'm developing a banking application. What I'm developing? One banking application where I want to represent a customer data. I want to represent whose data? Customer data. Customer is. Okay. So then to represent customer data, first I have to develop what? Customer. Then I have to create what? Customers. Okay. So developing customer is nothing but building one class. So see here, what is the name of the class is? Okay, assume that. What is the name of the class is? Name of the class is what? Account. Account is a class. Account is a class, or account is what here? Data type. Okay, you can say account is a class, or account is what here? Data type. Now using this account class, you allocate memory for what? Accounts. Using integer class, you allocate memory for integers. Using float class, you allocate memory for floats. Using account class, you allocate memory for account. So every account is having how many values? Account is having what? Account is having what? Account number. Account is having account number. Account is having name. Account is having account type. Account is having balance. What is this account number, name, account type, balance? These are called properties. These are called which one? Properties are attributes of which one? Account, right? So every customer is having how many values here? 4 values. That is account number, name, account type, and balance. Then after that, on this account, you perform certain operations or not? Yes. What operations you do on the account? What operations you do on the account? Deposit. Okay, you perform the operations like which one? Deposit is one function. There is one more function. What is it? Another function? Withdraw. Okay, now there is one more function called which one? Find balance. Okay, now there is one more function called which one? Transfer funds. So all these are what here? Functions. Functions, what you do on which one? Account. Suppose when I say deposit, what will happen? My balance get changed. When I say withdraw, my balance get changed. When I say find balance, it gets the value of balance. If I say transfer, now the balance get what again? Changed. But what is account? Is it a data type, or is it a class, or is it object? Class. So whenever customer open the account, what you do it? You create object. Whenever customer open the account, what you do it? You create a object. Means you allocate memory for the customer. What is this account one here? Tell me here. What is account one? Class or object? Object. What is account? Class. What is account one? Object. Account one is a object of which class? Account class. Okay, in this case, A is the object of which class? Integer class. In this case, account one is the object of which class? Account class. So it allocates memory for what? Account number. It allocates memory for account number. Spelling mistake, okay, no problem. Account number, name, and account type, and one more is what? Balance. So I just give the account number. So where the data is stored in class or object? Object. Okay, but how I created object using class? How I created object using class, right? So what is the name? Name of the customer. Okay, now this is account type, and this is what here? Some balance, right? This is a balance. So for every object creation, there is one class. But in this case, account is my class. Is it predefined class or user defined? User defined. It means classes are how many types now? Two. One is predefined data types and one more is user defined data types. Now, yesterday we have listed so many data types, right? All those data types are predefined or user defined? Predefined classes. But apart from that, you can also build your own classes. Apart from that, you can build your own classes. Now, I want to represent one more customer details. Can I represent one more customer details or not? Yes. Okay. So account one, and there is one more object. What is the name of this here? Account two. What account two? Having again what? Account number and name and account type, and one more is what? Balance. So the account number, suppose account number is 102, and this is a name of the customer, and this is a account type, and this you can call it as which one? Balance. So this you can call it as a balance. Getting on. So here class is a data type, and account one and account two are called which one here? Objects. So data is represented as what? Objects. Data is represented as objects, and to create objects, what you required? A class. To create these objects, what you required is a class. But I'm saying now you learn this in detail about this object orientation. You learn in details. There is one chapter is there, object oriented programming. So where you learn what is encapsulation, what is polymorphism, and what is inheritance. Everything you learn in detail. Okay. So class is a blueprint of the object. Generally, you'll say, what is a class means? Lot of definitions are there. Class is a blueprint. Class is a blueprint of which one? Object. Blueprint. For example, a person want to construct the house, right? A person want to construct the house. For constructing the house, what he required first? Okay, he required some space, and he purchased some space. Then after that, what he'll do? He'll plan it. Planning will be done or not? Yes. Planning is nothing but blueprint. Planning is nothing but what here? Blueprint. So this is planning. So house planning is house planning. This is house planning. Okay, now where you plan it? Now this is a hall, and this is okay, like this. You try to plan it, right? Okay, you try to plan certain things. Okay, so this is a some bedroom and kitchen, like that. You plan it. This is house planning. House planning is what? Object or class? Blueprint. Blueprint means is it object or class? Class. It is a blueprint. So blueprint is nothing but what here? Class. Now can you sleep in house planning? space? Now, in this case, in programming, what is the space is called main memory. In main memory, you start implementing it. Okay. Now you implement this house planning and create one house. Create one house, and what is the name of this? House one. So what is house one here? What is house one here? Object. Okay, using this plan, can you construct any number of houses or not? Yes. Okay. For example, there is a house two. What is house two? Object. House one is a object and house two is a object. Getting on. So class is only a blueprint of which one? Object. Object is an implementation of a class. Object is an implementation of which one? Class, right? Object is an implementation of a class. Okay. So these classes are, I can say these classes or data types are, okay, two. One is which data types? Predefined classes, and one more is user defined classes. Predefined classes, user defined classes are same thing. You can call it as, what is this? Data types. And this is which data types? User defined data type. Predefined means it is developed by Python. It is developed by somebody else and you are using it. For example, I develop a class. For me, it is what? For example, I develop a class. For me, it is what? User defined. And if I give that class to you, for you, it is what? Predefined. Either it is predefined or user defined. It is called which class? User defined class only. Because you are not writing that class. It is written by your friend. For your friend, it is which class? User defined. And you take that class. For you, it is what? Predefined. Either it is predefined or user defined. It is which class? User defined only. Okay. Yes. So existing classes or existing data types are called which classes? Predefined classes. So class name is nothing but data type name. And is it this class name is a keyword or identifier? Identifier. Class names are not keywords. Class names are not keywords. Class name is given by whom? Class name is given by whom? Who build class. Now, if you are building a class, you give the name of that class. If you are building a class, if you are building a data type, you give the name of that data type or you give the name of that class. Getting on. So predefined classes or data types or user defined classes are data types. So the existing classes or data types are called predefined classes. Okay, are the data types provided by Python? Are data types provided by whom? Python are called which classes? Predefined classes. Okay, example is, what are these here? Integer, float, complex, string, okay, list, tuple, okay, dictionary, okay, set, frozen set, all these are which data types? You develop these data types? No. These data types are provided by whom? Python. Okay. So the classes or data types, the classes or data types provided by whom? Programmer. Programmer are called programmer defined classes. These are which classes? Programmer defined classes are called which one? User defined classes or data types. Suppose you are building project for a bank, then you are developing one class. What is the name of that? Account. You are developing a payroll system. Then you develop one class. What is that? Employee. You are developing project for a school. You develop one data type. What is a data type? Student. Why you develop a student data type to represent whose data? Student data. Why you develop a employee data type to represent whose data? Employees data. Why you develop account data type to represent whose data? Accounts data. Why you develop a sales data type to represent what? Sales. Okay, why you develop player data type to represent whose details? Player details. Getting on, or is it application specific data types are provided by Python? No. Application specific data types should be built, and you are building it using which concept? Object oriented. So that is what you learn in second part of your course, that is advanced Python. In advanced Python, you learn how to build your own data types. But in core Python, you'll be working with only existing data types like int, float, list, and all these things. Okay. Yes. Just to try to understand, for every object behind there is one, for every object behind there is one class. For every object behind there is one class. Okay. For example, okay, I'm telling you number of examples so that you can understand what is a class and object is, right? For example, I want to create a robo. For example, I want to create what here? Robo I want to create. So to create a robo, first what I have to do? I have to design the robo. I have to design robo. To create a robo, I have to design the robo, right? So robo, designing robo is nothing but, sorry, designing robo is nothing but object or class or class. Very good. Okay. Designing robo is nothing but class. What is a robo now? Class. It is a class. Okay. So what properties robo is having? Okay. So assume that robo is having some name and robo is having some color, right? Now these are the characteristics, or these are the properties of which one? Robo. Okay. Then what are the operations of the robo? Robo, what it will do? Walk, robo, run, okay, robo, talk. So these are the functions of which one? Robo. Okay, now, yes. So these are the properties, and these are what here? Functions. So robo is only a class or not? Yes. So using this robo, what you can do? You can create number of robots or not? Yes, you can create number of robots. Okay. For example, I'm creating one robo. Now assume that this is a, what is this here? Robo 1. So what is robo 1 here? Object, right? And then I'm creating one more robo here. What is the name of this here? Robo 2. Robo 1 is the object and robo 2 is also objects, right? Two objects are created. Now, then I define name of this robo and color of this robo. Okay, again I define the name of this robo and color of this robo. Okay, I just give the name of this robo, some name. So R1, R1 or something like some city 1.0. So color is what here? Some white, white. Okay, now this is, assume that this is one more robo, 2.0, and color is what here? Black. Now what are these here? Objects. Robo 1 is the object and robo 2 is what? Object. Going on. So what is robo now? Class. And these are instances, or these are called which one? Objects. So data is stored in what? Class or object? Object. Data is represented as a objects. So what is a A here? Object name. And what is the value of this object? 25. What is the type of this object? Integer. Going on. So every class behind there is one object. Remember that. Every object behind there is one class. Every object behind there is one class. Why I tell this many number of examples is to understand the difference between the class and objects, right? So, so Python is which language? Now tell me here, Python is which language? Object-oriented programming language. In object-oriented programming languages, how the data is represented as objects, and every data type is a class. What is object? Instance of a class. Instance means where implementation of a class. Implementation of a class, instance of a class, all these are one and the same. Every object is having how many characteristics? Two characteristics. One is properties and second one is behavior. What properties define? Values. Values held by the object or state of the object. What behavior defines? Functionality of the object. What is a class? Class define the structure of object, and class define the properties and behavior of object. And class represents what here? Data type. And using class we create object and store data and perform operations. Okay. And the class is a blueprint of object, and object is implementation of class. And these classes are how many types here? Two. One is a predefined and second one is user defined. So existing classes or data types are called predefined classes or data types. Example is like int, float, complex string. All these are called which classes? Predefined. The classes or data types provided by programmer are called which classes? User defined classes. Like you build even your own classes. Okay. Then let us see. So this data types. Okay. Predefined data types. Let us see this predefined data types here. So this is predefined. Okay, data types. So within that, so first data type is which one? Integer is there. What is this data type? Integer data type or integer class. Okay, integer int class or int what is it? Data type. So this class is used to represent which objects? Integer objects. Okay. So int class is used. Int class is used to represent which objects? Integer objects, or to allocate memory for which values? Integer values. You are allocating memory for which values? Integer values using int class. But when you are talking about data type define the type as well as what? Size. For example, if I'm working with the C language or Java language, okay, Java is there. How many integer data types are there in Java is you find like byte, short, int, and one more is what? Long. Suppose in Java, so byte reserves memory of how many bytes? 1 byte. Okay, short reserves memory of how many bytes? 2 bytes. Okay. And int reserve memory of how many bytes? 4 bytes. And long reserve memory of how many bytes? 8 bytes. It means if I reserve memory or if I create variable of type which one? Byte, it reserves space of how many bytes? 1 byte. In 1 byte I can store only 1 byte value. In 2 bytes I can store only 2 byte value. 1 byte value means 1 byte is equivalent to how many bits? 8 bits. Okay, yes or no? Okay, so 2 to the power of 8 means 256. What is the maximum value I can store? 256. But I cannot store 257 because 1 byte means in 1 byte 1 byte can hold only the value which range from 0 to 255. Which hold value which range from 0 to what? 255. For example, see here. If you see, for example, there is a value called, see here, there's a value called 255. So 255 will take how many bits? What do you do it? You convert this value into what? Binary by dividing with what? 2. How many times? 1, 1, 1. How many times? How many times here? 127. What is the remainder? 1. Okay, then next is, now this is 6, 3, and remainder is what again? 1, and this is 3, and 1 is what again? 1, and this is 15, and remainder is what again? 1, and this is 7, and remainder is a 1, and this is 3, remainder is a 1, and this is 1, remainder is what again? 1. So total how many bits? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 bits. 8 bits equivalent to 8 bits equivalent to what? 1 byte. 1 byte. It means this 255 required how much space? Array. 255 required how much space? 1 byte space. 1 byte. Okay, what is the maximum value hold by 1 byte? 255. Suppose if I take 256, it will take 9 bits. It will take how many bits here? 9 bits. Is it 9 bits value? Can you put in 1 byte? No. I required how many bytes now? 2 bytes. Then I should go for which data type? Short. And in short, I can store the value of how many bytes? 2 bytes. If it is more than 2 bytes value, I should go for int. Int will take how many bytes? 4 bytes. If it is more than 4 bytes, then I should go for long. That is when you are working with which one? Java, right? So Java is having different data types, different integer data types, because each integer data type is having what? Size. Okay, but when it comes to the Python, every data type is what? Class. Every data type is a class, and objects are objects. Objects in Python. Now this is a note. Objects in Python are dynamic in what? Size. Objects in Python are dynamic in what? Size. What is the size of integer in Python? Is it fixed or dynamic? Dynamic. It is not fixed. It is what? Dynamic. Okay, it means you can store a value of any length. Maximum value you can store it. It doesn't give you any error. That's the reason as a Python developer, you don't require to think about what? Size. How many integer data types are there in Python? Only one. And what is the name of that? Int. How many integer data types are there in Java? 4 are there. Why? Because each integer define one size. You want only 1 byte integer value, go for byte. If it is 2 bytes integer, go for short. If it is 4 bytes integer, go for integer. If it is 8 bytes integer, go for long. But here there is only one int. Because Python is dynamic language, right? So notice, okay, here in Python objects are what? Dynamic in size. Dynamic in size means there is no fixed size here. There's no fixed size. Memory is allocated based on based on what? Value size. Memory is allocated based on value size. Okay. So in Python, objects are dynamic in size. Memory is allocated based on value size. It is not fixed. For example, I'm writing, suppose A equal to, I just write A equal to 50. What is the value of A? 50. I want to know how many bytes are reserved. Okay. I want to know how many bytes are reserved for which one? A. Okay. So to find that, I need to import one module. I need to import one module or one library. And what is the name of that library? Sys. Sys means system. Generally, who execute the Python program? PVM, which is called as Python Virtual Machine. I want to communicate with Python Virtual Machine. Then I use which module? Sys module. I want to know what is the size of A. I'll say sys dot. What is this here? What is this here? Module. What is module? Program. This is predefined program or user defined? Predefined. And predefined programs are libraries or not? Yes. This is a predefined program. Is a library. This is a library. Now in this, there is one function called get size of. Get size of. Get size of which one? A. Now A is how many bytes it is taken? 28 bytes. It's taken how many bytes? 28 bytes it is taken. Okay, because when you're saying object is having some properties or not? Yes. Okay. In the same way, I'm saying B equal to some this value. Now B value is some 99 lakhs like that. Okay, I've taken this is B value. And if I'm saying sys dot get size of B. What is the size of B? 28. Still it is taken how many bytes? 28 bytes. Okay. Now I'm writing C equal to now this is a value. C equal to this is a value. Okay. This is a value. And if I'm saying sys dot, what is this now? Get size of. Get size of which one? C. And what is the size of C? 40 bytes. Is it fixed or? Is the size of integer data type as fixed or dynamic? Dynamic. Dynamic. It means if I'm writing D, if I'm storing more larger value. Okay, then what is the size of? Okay, sys dot get size of which one? D
Recording in progress.
Okay, right now integer class or data type. Now in Python, objects are dynamic in size, right? And this is what will happen. Yes. Yeah. Array. Okay, so the size of this integer is not fixed. Okay, I'm just telling you again. So there is a type of A is a object of a class, which one? Integer, right? Okay. So every data type is a class. Class name is a keyword or identifier. Class name is a identifier, not a keyword. Here is an identifier. Class name is a identifier. Okay. So int keyword is there in the list or no? Class name is a identifier. Okay. So don't say keyword, right? Okay. So B. Now B equal to, I just write here 50. And I want to know what is the size of this B. I just import which module? Sys module. And I'm saying sys dot get size of B. So what is the size of B? 28 bytes. Now I take some larger value. Okay. And then I'll say sys dot get size of, and this is C, 32 bytes. And if I'm saying D, I take more larger value. And then sys dot get size of D. And what is the size of D? 44 bytes. Is the size of this object is fixed or dynamic? Dynamic. Dynamic in size. Okay. So here sys is a module in above example. In above example, okay, what is sys? Sys is a module or is a library or is a predefined what? Program. So this module provides a function called get size of, which returns size of size of size of object occupied inside what? Memory, or memory size or object size. So that is done by using which one? Get size of. And here we are also using one function called which one? Type. So type, it is a predefined function which return, okay, type of object hold by what? Variable. Hold by the variable. So a variable hold which object? Integer object. Then what is the class is given here? Integer. What is the class is given here? Integer, right? Is it clear this one? Okay. So integers, when you're talking about integers, right? What is integer? Integer value, see here, integer value is a numeric value. Integer is which value? Numeric value, which doesn't have, which doesn't have, which part? Decimal part, or doesn't have which part? Doesn't have which part? Fractional part. Integer value is a numeric value which doesn't have Decimal part, or what is that? Fractional part. You can say no. So integers are like all whole numbers are integers, even numbers are integers, odd numbers are integer, natural numbers are what? Integers. All these are which type of values? Integer values. Which doesn't have a decimal part, which doesn't have which part? Fractional part. So that value is called as integer value. In Python, integer value or literal, represented in four formats. How many ways can you, how many formats can you represent integer value? Four formats. Four formats are there. Okay, four formats in which you can represent which value? Integer value. Yes, listen here, listen, right? In Python, integer value is represented in how many formats? Four formats. Okay, see, all these are important because I said no, you are planning for, suppose your objective is you want to become a data scientist. Data scientist. Okay, data science. Data science means which one is important here? Data. Data science. I said no, data. So this data is which type? This data can be which type? Integer type. This data can be which type? Float type. This data can be which type? Complex type. This data can be which type? String type. Sir, no, this data can be any type. But you should able to identify this data is in which format, which type and which format. You can identify, suppose if I'm saying 45, 45 is which value? Integer. But it is in which format? It is type is what? Integer, but it is in which format? Decimal format. It is in which format? Decimal form. So as a data scientist, you must know how the data is represented. Type is okay. Type is which one? Integer, but it is in which form? Decimal form. This is in which form? Decimal form or decimal format. So in Python, integer value or literal represented in four formats. One is decimal, okay, decimal integer. And second one is octal integer. Third one is hexadecimal integer. Hexadecimal integer. And fourth one is which one? Binary integer. In how many ways can you represent an integer value in Python? Four ways. What is this decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and binary is called? Generally, what is this decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and binary is called? Number system. This decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and binary are called as what? Number system. What is number system? A number system defines some rules. How to represent numbers in computers. How to represent numbers in computer science. That rules are defined by whom? Number system. Getting on. So what is number system? Which defines some set of rules and regulations to represent numbers in computer science. Any language you work, you represent you represent numbers and decimal, octal, hexadecimal, and one more is binary. Decimal integer, decimal here, based on the size, and based on the usage. Based on the size and based on the usage, okay, you may represent integer either in decimal format, octal format, hexadecimal format, and one more is binary format. Binary format, see, you may represent data in zeros and ones. When you represent data in zeros and ones, when you work with which programming? Low level programming. I think you know in electronics you find which one? What is that? Logic gates. What is logic gate? Is an electronic circuit or not? Yes. Through which you input two values, and you get one value. Okay, so what values you input? Will you input 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No, you input which values? Binary values, that is 0 or 1. So it means, are you controlling the electronic device by using some gates? Okay, that you call it as which one? Logic gates. So where you input the data in the form of zeros and ones. Please just to try to understand. Okay, so decimal integer. Are you getting what I'm telling you? What do you say here? You understood what is integer class? Why we are using integer class to represent which values? Integer values. Integer values means integer objects. Integer values are nothing but integer objects. Okay, integer objects. The moment when you write like this, the moment when you write like this, a equal to 10, a equal to some 45. So what Python is doing? It is allocating memory. Okay, it is reserving memory for what? 45. Where? Main memory. What is main memory? RAM. Temporary or permanent? Right. RAM is temporary or permanent? Temporary. Whatever data you store within main memory is not permanent, it's a temporary. Where you store the data permanently? Disk, hard disk, drive. Yes or no? So ROM is not used by programmers. ROM is used by manufacturers. It is not used by programmers, right? So whatever data you store within the RAM, that is not permanent. It is only temporary. To store the data permanently, you store that data inside a file. You store the data permanently within one database. So many applications are there to store the data how? Permanently, right? So what is 45? 45 is a value of which type? Integer. Then your Python virtual machine, reserve some space or not? Yes. For which value? Integer value. Okay. Integer value. Now, what is the value inside this location? 45. What is the name of this object? A. What is the value of object? 45. Can you say A is the object or not? Yes. What is the value of this object? 45. But to create this object, what do you required? Alright. To create this object, what do you required? Class. So this object is created using which class? Integer class. So A is which type of object? Integer object. For every object behind there is one class. So without class, no object is created, right? Yes. Please remember this. So decimal integer. So what is this decimal integer here? Okay, decimal integer, an integer value. Okay, an integer value with base 10 is called a decimal. Is called a decimal integer. What is the base of this number? 10, right? And this integer. So what I'm talking about is decimal integer. Decimal integer. So this integer is prefix with either plus or what is it? Minus. This integer is having only plus or minus, but it should not prefix with any other special character. And this integer should not start with. This integer should not start with what? 0. Okay, decimal integer should not start with what? 0. So default representation of integer is in what? Decimal. Default representation of integer is in what? Decimal only. For example, I'm writing like this. You have to practice all this. Okay, because all this will be using it. Now suppose n1 equal to 45. Now 45 is which value? Integer value in which format? Decimal format. You create this integer using all the digits. This integer is created using all the digits from, this integer is created using all the digits from 0 to what? 9. You can use all these digits to create what? This value. But this value should not start with what? 0. You can create this number using all the digits from 0 to 9. But this value should not start with what? 0. Now that integer is called decimal. Now default representation of integer is what? Decimal only. 45. Is it from 0 to 9? 445 is there or not? Yes. What is the value of n1? 45. The value of n1 is 45. Now n2 equal to plus 56. n3 equal to minus 65. All these are which values? Decimal values. All these are decimal. Now value of n2 is 56. The value of n3 is minus 65. Tell me, can I write n4 equal to 0.98? No. Is it valid or invalid? Invalid. So immediately it is given what? Error. Which error? Syntax error. Now leading zeros in decimal, integer, literal. Literal is nothing but value. Value are not permitted. Use 0 prefix for which integer? Octal integer. Getting or not? So you can create these digits by using all the values from 0 to 9, but it should not prefix with what? 0. For example, roll number is 12. Roll number is which type? Or roll number is which type? Integer type. What is the value of roll number? 12. 12 is in which format? Decimal format. Decimal format. Suppose I'm saying OTP number. OTP number. So 1245. OTP number. No, type of OTP is which type? Integer type. And this is in which format? Decimal format. This is in which format? Decimal format, right? But this integer should not prefix with 0, right? 0 here. Now this is a first integer, right? Decimal format. This is decimal format. See, all these things you have to practice. All these things you have to practice, right? Yes. Now there is a decimal integer and there is one more integer which is called octal integer. Octal integer. Now you can also represent an integer in which format? Octal format. But most of the times in application development or projects, you represent integer in, most of the times you represent in decimal format, and one more is hexadecimal format. But when you required, then only you go for which one? Octal, and one more is a binary. Binary, because binary means you understand binary? No. Who understand binary? Computer. Ring or not? Yes. So octal integer, what is octal? Octal means what? 8. An integer value with base 8 is called which integer? Octal integer. An integer value with base 8 is called octal integer, and this integer is created. This integer is created using all the digits from where? 0 to 7. This integer is created using all the digits from 0 to 7. And this integer, and it is prefixed with 0 O, small o, or 0, which one? Capital O. This integer is prefixed with 0 small o or 0 what? Capital O. Now that integer is called which integer? Octal integer. It means, suppose sometimes you want to restrict the number of digits, then you go for which integer? Octal integer. For example, If you are working with the operating system like Unix, if you are working with the operating system like which one? Unix. And Unix is the operating system or not? Yes. So in this, you create a file, and this file is having some permissions. Some permissions will be there, like owner permission will be there, and group permissions will be there. And there is one more, which one? Others. But this permission is represented with one digit. What is it? 7, 7, and 7. But if I write 778, what will happen? It gives error. Because 777 means it allows only in which format? Octal format. It allows only which format? Octal. Means I can give this permission in numeric value of which type? Octal. I cannot write a digit like 7, 9, 7 and 4. 9 is there. Is it 9 is allowed or not allowed in octal? Not allowed. It allows only the digits. You can create this number using digits from 0 to 7. But it doesn't allow 9. It doesn't allow 8. These digits are allowed or not allowed? Not allowed. Not only that, when you are working with some languages like assembly language, you represent numbers in which format? Octal format. Where it is used? It is used like to restrict a number, to restrict the number, to allow only this many number of, allow only this many digits. Okay, only digits which range from 0 to 7. In that case, you can go for it. And not only that, when you work with the languages like assembly language, you represent data in which format? Octal format. But I said no, as a data science developer, you may get the integers in decimal. You may get the integer in what? Octal. But as a developer, you should understand, is it this integer is which format? If it is prefixed with 0, then you have to say, this integer is which one? Octal. If it is not prefixed with anything, then it is, this is what? Decimal. That is how you have to recognize. Then only you can perform certain operations. If you don't recognize which type of data in which format, can you perform the operations? No, you cannot perform the operations, right? So an integer value with base 8 is called octal integer, and this integer is created using all the digits from 0 to 7, and it is prefixed with 0 small o or 0 capital O. Okay, yes. Now, for example, just see here. Are you getting or not what I'm telling you? Okay, so these types of integers, are used in which languages, like assembly language, or to restrict a number with a specific number of digits. Specific number of digits to go for which one? Octal. Tell me if I'm writing some A1. A1 is the name of the object, name of the variable. 0 34. Valid or invalid? Valid. So this is integer or not? Yes. If I'm saying some A2 equal to 0 if I'm saying 78, valid or invalid? Invalid, because octal allows 8. No. Octal allows only digits from 0 to, yes. So there is a syntax error saying that invalid digit 18 what? Octal literal. Literal means value or not? Yes. Literal means value. Okay. A3. A3 equal to 0. Can I say 67 valid or invalid? Valid. So it may contain any number of digits, but that digit should be from 0 to 7. I can write like this. Okay, this is a value, and this value is in which format? Octal format. Octal format. But what will happen when I print A1 value? If I print A1 value, what is the value displayed? 28. So It should display 34 or not? Yes, but it's displayed what? 28. 28 is which value? Decimal value. So whenever you print the value, your Python virtual machine, it print the value in which format? Or it print the value in which format? Decimal format. Now 55 is what? Decimal equivalent of what? 67. If I am writing A4, now A4 is what here? Decimal equivalent of what? 0, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3. But how this is converted? Now we'll discuss about like how this decimal to octal is converted, right? Just to see here. Just try to understand how to convert decimal to octal and octal to decimal. Because whenever you print a value, the value get printed in which format? Or whenever you print the value get printed in which format? Decimal format. But how this octal is converted to what? Decimal. Either you represent in octal or decimal, internal representation of any value is what? Binary. So that is nothing but zeros and ones only. Internal representation of any value is zeros and ones, because inside memory always the data is stored in zeros and ones only. Then how to convert? So this is what do you call it as base conversions? Base conversion. Base conversion means what you are converting? Decimal to. So as a programmer, you should know how to convert decimal to octal and octal to what? Decimal. Decimal to octal and octal to decimal. Decimal to octal and octal to decimal, right? Now we'll see all this: decimal to octal, octal to decimal, and decimal to hexadecimal, and hexadecimal to decimal, and decimal to binary, and binary to decimal, and octal to hexadecimal. We'll see all these conversions, but not today because this might take some time. Tomorrow we'll be discussing about base conversions, right? Now, once we complete this data types, then we start writing programs. But before writing program, you should know all this. Because in program, I'll not tell you again, A equal to 10 means you should not ask what is A. Because we are learning all these things first only, right? Okay. So tomorrow we'll see this base conversions and even we'll see other data types, right? So thank you. We'll see tomorrow, right? Thank you. Yeah, I'll provide it. Yeah, you can use int equal to 30. No problem. Yeah, I'll share it. Yeah, tell me. Yeah, tell me. Good morning, Naveen. Yeah, tell me, Naveen. Process. మీరు చేసి. Yeah, I'll send it. I'll send. Yeah, int is an identifier. Class names are identifiers. Original classes only. Tomorrow class is there. All these are original classes. I'll tell you. I'll tell you one application related with bank. No problem. I'll tell you application. Not required. Not required. Because why you write a class? Because of creating object only, right? Why you write a class? To create object only. I'll share the videos in Google Classroom, right? You ask your admin. Yeah, only chart in chart window you can type messages. In chart window you can communicate.